Jeff in Denver. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Well, actually, one of your callers, I was calling about political consultants, how not to listen to, but one of your callers,
Jeff?
the break talked about creating pictures and graphs and so forth.
Yeah.
Well, I see the Denver, what I call the Frady-crats, they just don't seem to get it. I mean, we're three-brain beings. Gurdjieff speaks of this, where we have the emotional, intellectual, and moving centers. We don't learn unless we use two of those centers, and so we need to tell stories because the emotional center sees in pictures.
Right.
The Dems knew how to tell stories in the 60s, as did Reagan. We had the Peace Corps, we had Head Start. Look at you.
See
a picture in your mind of being somewhere in Africa helping people. But the Dems in the 2000s, when they improved childhood health insurance, they called it S-chip.
Yeah, I know.
It creates no picture. It has no meaning to anybody.
Well, it creates a picture in my mind of cow patties.
Yeah.
It's like something you avoid when you're walking through a field. Look, don't step in that S-chip. It's like,
you have to bring in the moving center, the emotional center. We had We Shall Overcome, the songs of the different movements. We learned our ABCs by singing.
Yeah.
When you learned the biblical stories, the Greek mythology, you saw the pictures. Well, Reagan knew how to do that. The Dems in the 60s did.
Yeah.
And also you can play off well-known phrases like right now. I mean, it's a Republican stupid is what we should be saying all the time.
Yeah.
Or play verbal aikido, so use our own phrase against them. So when Bush said, had his education thing, we should call it No Child Left Behind. So that it's every time you hear it, you hear also the opposite thing. That kind of thing.
Bush's thing was really no testing company left behind. And it coincided with Neil Bush going into the testing company business. Yeah.
But as far as the Frady-crats are concerned, you really need to ignore the political consultants. So you need to be a progressive, not a product.
Yeah.
As the radio people, I know radio fairly well.
Yeah.
And I see them doing this, but also in the 80s, most beer is bland. And we did what I called Budweiser marketing, where you create a product to offend as few people as possible.
Right.
But then the microbrewers came along, and they made, so you're always basing your product on the negative. If it bothers somebody, make it more mellow.
Right.
But the microbrewers came along and made a great product. And all of a sudden, all the big, the microbrewers are taken over.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do with politicians. I mean, Gore, and if you listen to him on shows like Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, he's brilliant. He's funny, quick, But in 2000, he was a dull milquetoast product.
Yeah. Because he was following the Bob Shrum school of campaigning.
I mean, it was not the same person you hear on these. You hear Gore off the cuff. He's great.
Yeah.
But then when you stand for something, if you look at the guy who beat Eric Cantor, he really stood for something, although I don't agree with it. But he was outspent by more than 40-1, yet he beat Cantor by 10 points.
Yeah.
You got to stand for something. You got to tell stories.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And there's an interesting piece in today's Washington Post about how Allison Lundgren Grimes wants the Democratic Party, at least the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, which I think Chuck Schumer runs. I could be wrong. But anyhow, the DSC, whatever it is, pulled money for her advertising. And so she basically started holding press conferences and started speaking her mind and started saying things that, were not cautious. And all of a sudden, she bumped back up in the polls. This has all happened in the last 2 days. Bumped back up in the polls, and the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee says, oh, well, maybe we have a chance here. And they just put a couple $100,000 back into the campaign in Kentucky. So, I absolutely agree with you, Jeff. And I think the number one, Democrats running for President Obama is a big mistake. I think they should be running with him. And they should be, and I mean, he's done a very poor job, or at least his administration has done a very poor job of messaging their accomplishments. But his surrogates should be doing that. And Bill Clinton, at least, was very good at getting his surrogates to dance to his tune. And the surrogates, these politicians who are running away from the president, who are running away from Obamacare, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They just absolutely are. Jeff, spot on. So right.